Tips to write your introduction case study form. Hello again. By now, you have elaborated your outline and you have received feedback from me and your classmates. Now, it's time to write your introduction. Remember, you do not have to incorporate all our opinions, but you definitely have to strengthen your weak points. Before we start, here are some important general parameters. Font Arial, size 12 points, spacing 1.5. It must contain the question in blue, the ethical relevance in purple, and the structure of the paper in green. And it must be between 350 and 400 words. Let's begin. There are many ways to write an introduction. Here, we are going to offer you a possible model. For purposes of this video, once again, we are going to deal with robot waiters and process automation, and with a sample outline that you can find at the Schoology. However, remember to have your own outline nearby, since we will work with it. First, let's make clearer what is an introduction. We all know that an introduction is generally the first part of the text. But what does it contain? Well, the basic information of your topic and the points that you're going to develop through your paper. For example, imagine that you are organizing a surprise birthday party for Christian. When you meet your friends, you do not start telling them, "Please, bring the cake," even if you know you would like to have one. Instead, you say an introductory phrase like, "Let's start planning Christian's party." This logic is more or less the same in a text. In an introduction of an ethics paper, the reader must know 1. What are you going to speak about? 2. Which specific dilemma are you going to deal with and why is it important? And 3. How are you going to develop your paper? Which steps are you going to follow? These 3 questions can be organized accordingly in 3 paragraphs. So let's start with question 1, paragraph 1. What are you going to speak about? To write this paragraph, you will use the background of the problem that you wrote in your outline. Try to be creative. Try to imagine that you're narrating a story to someone. In the case of robot waiters, we first engage our reader with our topic alluding to a cartoon. Do you remember Rosie, the robot housekeeper from the Jetsons? I guess that when the cartoon was first broadcasted during the 70s in the United States, more than one person thought that it would have been awesome to have Rosie at home. Back then, to own a robot that could develop human tasks was a distant dream. Nowadays, we might be a few steps towards those devices. Then, we wrote the background, changing the grammar accordingly. In 2014, robot waiters were introduced in a few restaurants in China. These machines take the order, deliver meals, and can say short phrases. Although they are not cheap, they cost around 160,000 pesos, it is expected that in a long-term period, owners will save money in wages. Please pause this video and write the first paragraph of your introduction using your background of the problem. Then you can continue watching this video. The second paragraph has to answer the question, which specific dilemma are you going to deal with and why is it important? This is in fact the question and the ethical relevance that you already wrote in your outline. In the case of process automation, our question was: is the implementation of robot waiters a fair business practice? And the ethical relevance was: despite the attraction that robot waiters have caused among customers, we must analyze the other side of the coin. If owners are expecting to save money in wages, it can be inferred that human waiters will be fired. Therefore, the right to work and to protection against unemployment might be at stake, promoting social inequality due to ambition. Now, when writing your introduction, you do not have to transcribe these texts literally. You have to use connectors and perhaps introduce other phrases. For example, in this perspective, process automation is. At this panorama, we can infer that the implementation of process automation, therefore, process automation puts at risk. Now, for our paper on robot waiters, we link the first and second paragraph mentioning again Rosie from the Jetsons and linking it to the robot waiters in China. At a first glance, the idea to have Rosies at restaurants seems appealing. In China, one client who had been served by a robot waiter declared that he wanted one at home, and children are fascinated to speak with a machine. Then we stated that there might be a problem. However, are we reaching our dreams? Thus, the next sentence actually enunciates our question, which is in blue, and starts developing the ethical relevance, which is in purple. If we take a second glance, we can notice that the implementation of robot waiters might be an unfair business practice. If owners are expecting to save money in wages, then human waiters will be fired. Afterwards, we continued speaking about how important it is to think this matter ethically. In this sense, this practice can thoroughly affect some persons, and their right to work and to protection against unemployment might be at stake. In fact, we could be in a case of promotion of social inequality due to ambition. Please pause this video and write the second paragraph of your introduction using your question and the ethical relevance. Don't forget to use colors. Then you can continue watching this video. The third paragraph should answer the question: how are you going to develop your paper? Which steps are you going to follow? Thus, you have to offer an overview of the arguments that you wrote in your chart. In the case of robot waiters, this was our chart. We thought that the implementation of robot waiters was not a fair business practice because it leads to unemployment and increases social inequality, and it overvalues money and pays little attention to persons. We also found that the implementation of robot waiters could be a fair business practice because it does not lead to unemployment, for waiters receive a compensation and they can find another job. And it does pay attention to persons. Yes, it increases revenues, but it also offers a high quality service to the customer. When writing your paper, you do not have to enumerate these points as in the chart. It is not a numbered list 1, 2, 3. You should narrate these arguments. A tip is to imagine that you're telling a story to someone. Going back to the case of Christian's surprise party, you are not going to tell your friends, place, hour, food, cake. It is more likely that you tell them, first, let's define where and at what time we will do the party. Then we can choose the food. and who brings what. And finally, it's the same logic for your paper. In this sense, our third paragraph could be as follows. The first two phrases are general. In this paper, I will evaluate if the implementation of robot waiters is a fair business practice or not. Since I'm speaking about a kind of automated system, I will retrieve some arguments regarding this topic. However, I will be focused on the ethical implications any owner of a restaurant should consider. Then, there is a summary of the pro arguments. I will notice that employers are not legally violating any workers' rights if they tell their employees in advance and that they show responsibility towards their clients. Afterwards, there is a summary of the against arguments and two specific ethical theories are mentioned. However, you do not necessarily have to mention any ethical theory. Nevertheless, from a Kantian and virtue ethics perspective, I will claim that, despite subtly, a lack of social responsibility and ambition might be reigning. Since the summary is the structure of your paper, it should be in green. Please pause this video and write the last paragraph of your introduction using the arguments of your chart. Don't forget to use colors. Then you can continue watching this video. We are almost done. The final step is to write the title at the top. And that's it. So, here is the summary of what you have done. In the first paragraph, you told us your background in a creative way. In the second paragraph, you stated your question and the ethical relevance. Finally, the third paragraph is an overview of your chart. Make sure that the font is Arial, 12 points, and spacing 1.5. If you need a sample of the complete introduction, you can find it at Schoology.